Augustine, I say I'm
I
not
know
in
exactly what I have to
Carolina.
do.
Okay, okay, Augustine. God bless.
Thank you, Pastor.
You can go ahead.
Good morning to everyone. Thank you for coming to hear what the Lord has to say this morning. Let us ask and make sure we remember that He is present. Thank you, Father. Thank you for life this morning, and thank you for your word. For man shall not live by bread alone, but man shall live by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of God. And this morning, I'm reading from the book of Revelation, and I've been becoming quite fascinated by the river. I've been thinking about water and living water and how important water is. I'm used to be an aquatic fitness instructor, so I worked in the water for a few years. Well, exercise, moving the body in the water, and there are so many health benefits from being exercising in the water. And it's now that I am into Jesus, I'm thinking, why did he say he was the living water? And so I've been exploring those things in the Bible. And the most fascinating word about the flowing water comes from the book of Genesis. I'm not Genesis, from Revelation chapter 22. And he showed me a clear river, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. In the midst of the street of the river, on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, and it bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. And there shall be no more curse, but the throne of God and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. Then when I go to the very last book in the Bible, the book of Revelation, the revelation of Jesus Christ. And then I go back to the Genesis, and the first book of the Bible tells me about the river, the water that was there before everything else was on the earth. Nothing else was on the earth. The earth was void and it was dark and there was nothing but water. And God and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good. So we have water, and God separated the water and the firmament between the water, and there's water above the firmament and water below the earth, and water in certain parts that separated the land from the dry, from the wetland, and he called one seas, and he called one land and earth, and so many wonderful things in that first book of the Bible. But the second book of the Bible, because we all used to the sea and the lakes and the rivers, we all used to, these are things in our experience now. So if you didn't know that before you read the book of Genesis, this wouldn't be as clear to you in the end of having a clear stream of water, which we don't have too much of anymore, pure water that gives life, because the earth has become so polluted and corrupt. And the water may be clear, but when you pick it up, you'll find a lot of debris in it. And all of these things I pondered on. And Jesus telling the woman, seeking for things that cannot satisfy, that she can drink of him because he is the living water. He is the river, the water of life. So we see that there is symbolism, there is something spiritual in the water that is not quite the same as the natural water. That God was speaking heavenly things. And he's speaking in all these natural ways for us to be able to picture and see and understand, because he wants us to understand his word. He wants us to look forward to better things. So we have that experience of ugly, and we are looking forward now in the book of Genesis to beauty. from God creating it at the very beginning and giving light, to God finishing everything by giving us back pure water, unspoiled in the earth. And one of the things that when we look at all the visions that men have had that talk about God's throne, because this water is coming from God's throne. What we see is a bow. We see a bow that seems to me to be the reflection of the beautiful stones, the gemstones, the amethyst and the emerald and the turquoise and all the stones that surround God's throne. Beautiful colored light. And God gave us this as a promise. He gave us this bow that is around his throne, that comes and is a reflection from water and from fire and from all the various things that compose a rainbow, that create a rainbow. He's given us this beautiful promise of everlasting life. He's given us this beautiful promise of not allowing sin to continue in the world forever and ever, but a promise of a time when everything will be restored to purity, to beauty, and everything that is wrong with man will be healed. He's giving us the leaves of the tree for the healing of the nation. We have all kinds of stories about that tree and when we will be eating those fruit and all of that. But I'm just concerned with how we perceive water, and that water to us is like the rivers of the streams of righteousness flowing through our lives. It's like the word of God, the truth, the purity of God's truth, the purity of light that comes from God, the purity and the goodness that comes from God. But most of all, because of God's mercy, we will receive this. Because of grace, which is unmerited favor, we will receive this. And it is there for the taking. For everyone that is hungering and thirsting after righteousness, we can all reach out toward that proverbial rainbow, the throne of God, the promise of God, the promise of restoration for everything and everything made new. No more tears, no more sorrow, no more crying, but only joy, peace, and the love of God in every single being that will be present. This is God's promise. So let's hold on to that promise today and reach our hands out towards his throne, for he is gracious and merciful, and he will hear and answer our prayer. Amen.
Amen. Good question. Thanks, Sister Alison, for not being with us for a bit. I thank her for being with us today. I want to do my word to the wise as a short video this morning.
Gaza ceasefire talks are underway in Egypt. Israeli media are reporting that Qatar is expected to play a role in the discussions. But at the same time, the Israeli military is carrying out airstrikes on residential neighborhoods in northern Gaza. Israeli forces bombed a house earlier on Wednesday, killing 20 members of the same family. The building was in a residential area near Kamal Adwan Hospital. Israeli troops have laid siege to northern Gaza for more than 2 months, blocking the deliveries of humanitarian aid, food and medicine. Well, there's no let-up in central Gaza either. Israeli airstrikes killed at least 7 Palestinians in Al-Nazaret refugee camp, again, members of the same family. Since October last year, attacks by the Israeli military have killed more than 44,700 people. Most of them have been women and children. Hani Mahmoud is live for us in Deir al-Balah. He's in central Gaza. And Hani, these strikes, they are continuing north and south and the centre with devastating intensity.
Yes, Laura. Well, there are actually 2 things happening right now. These 2 elements, let's say, the northern Gaza, they're not only impeding the rescue going on in the bomb site, right at the bomb site of the overnight attack, where 20 people reported killed. Just since early hours this morning, and the day progresses, only 1 young child We removed it from under the rubble. These a three-story building that was flattened completely. People inside of it. The 30 family members who were reported displaced inside this residential home were sandwiched as the building was flattened completely by multiple airstrikes. The presence of the quadcopters, the drones, the ongoing heavy artillery at the vicinity of Command Hospital is also impeding the rescue missions going on there. And these rescue missions, by the way, are not carried out by the Civil Defense Department because Civil Defense Department for close to a month now is non-operational. The Israeli military issued a sharp warning to civil defense personnel in northern Gaza and ordered them not to operate in any of the northern part of the Strip, including paramedics. So everything happening right now is from the local community, the residents, the neighbors who rush to help their neighbors inside this residential building. The confirmed report that we have close to 20 people being killed in the overnight attacks as people during the night rushed to the bomb site, but they could not do anything. And the tragedy of this is the vicinity of Kamal Adwan Hospital, where the bomb site is located, is not far from the gate of the hospital. Despite this short distance, none of the paramedics, none of the people inside the hospital was able to be dispatched and to go to the bomb site and remove people or help those who might have survived the attacks. And almost within just hours of this attack, another one in a Nusayrat refugee camp where 7 people were killed from one family inside a residential home. It's also a displaced family. All of this happening while there is a deepening humanitarian crisis going on with flour crisis, bread crisis, no basic supplies available, markets depleted, and it keeps continuing evolving in a much devastating way right now. We started seeing all the psychological toll and impact on everyone around here, let alone people who are experiencing it on a daily basis in northern part of the Strip with no let up in the attacks.
Extremely difficult situation. Hani Mahmoud bringing the very latest there from Gaza. Thank you, Hani.
I say no more. We are witnessing genocide. We are witnessing the most barbaric action of man that we have ever heard about. We are witnessing I don't know how to describe it anymore, but I know all over the world, we are all seeing the same thing. And the silence of those who know, the silence of the large powers, the silence of the church, in fact, it says a lot. It says a lot. And when I read the Bible and I read prophecy and the Bible says in those last days, they will deliver you to be killed and you will be persecuted. And if you have any doubt that it will happen while the world will stay silent, but those who call on God and those who are faithful to God will be delivered and killed in the face of a world that will just look on. If you feel that it's hard to imagine and hard to accept, look what is happening in Gaza. 45,000 people killed, majority women and children, 106,000 injured, 17,000 children with missing limbs and things like that. And the world act silently about it. There are folks who still, if you're asking about, they talk about Hamas. Hamas killed 1,000 Jews, Hamas killed. And they look at this massacre and they're unmoved by this massacre. A word to the wise is sufficient. Today I'm seeing only Candice. Candice, what? They abandoned us or something like that?
I'm not sure what's going on, but we are here, and so we will
I
do
like
what we have to do.
Man. I like his spirit. We are here, and the show must go on. Before I begin, I want to say JD's Furniture Store. They are open this morning. They are open on Sundays now until all 4 o'clock this afternoon. And JD is saying, if you have my book, or if you, and I'm going to promote the book too, but if you say that you heard the invitation to come to JD's and they have sales and specials, if you say you heard it on this program, there's a 5 to 10% discount on whatever you are buying. So go up to JD's and if those who don't want to go and look, you can put JD's Furniture Store on Facebook, and the link will come up, and you'll see all the goods that they have, and you can choose from on Facebook what you want. And wherever you are in the country, you could be in Charlottesville, you could be in Cedros, you could be in Blantyshires, they will deliver it for you. Also, before we leave, the hospital, Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventists, as in Cocorite on the Western Main Road, they are offering a special for the season. You can have a dental clinic will be there every day. And you can call 635-5499 or WhatsApp them on 431-8266 for more information. But what they're saying, whatever you pay for dental cleanse, they are offering it with $100 off. So get there. You can call 635-5499 or WhatsApp them on 431-8266. Now, this morning, I was dealing with the homosexual agenda. But before I say this, I want to say this, Candice. I want those who listen to know you are not hearing just a preacher who is going to pull the same Leviticus 18 and run and say what Paul said. No, you are dealing with a preacher, yeah, you want to call me that, but you are dealing with someone who had studied this for my master. This is my master's dissertation that I'm taking some questions from. So I have studied the thing. I'm not just bumping my mouth, speaking about, the whole intolerant view that Christianity holds, just to knock. If you think you are coming this morning to hear me just knocking away at homosexual, you're wrong. I have done this study, and this morning I will hardly deal with the religious aspect. I don't want folks to just come to say, here's another preacher coming to condemn. I don't want to confuse homosexuality with homosexuals. I am trying to bring a balanced understanding of what it is. It is homosexuality. I know it is loathsome. I know I believe it. I glean from the scriptures that it is wrong, and these folks are spiritually sick, and I feel they are also mentally ill. But I am dealing with it based on research. So don't expect me that when you heard the ad, you expect me to be bashing homosexual or being intolerant or spewing hate as most Christians are towards homosexual. No. Yes, I'm a Christian, but that intolerant view that Christians hold, following after the Christian right and things like that. This is not where Browne is going this morning. I will not. Even if I'm asked a question like that, don't expect my answer to be an answer of hate and intolerance. I will give I'll put the science onto the whole thing. I'm hoping to bring a better understanding of what it is for us all. Okay, Candice, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I also saw the flyer and I thought, oh, this is going to be an interesting morning, based on what we're going to be discussing. So
It will be.
yeah. So let's start from the very beginning. The topic for today is the LGBTQA agenda. So could you tell us a little bit more what exactly is meant by the LGBTQA agenda?
Now, once you hear agenda, you recognize it is going to carry some bias. So I'm saying in the homosexual manifesto, which was printed by the gay community in February 15 to 21, 1987, I want to read some stuff from that manifesto that made me come to the conclusion that this is agenda more than anything else. And it stated, I'm reading from page 87. I wouldn't read all. The manifesto is not a long manifesto, but it makes some very interesting reading. It states, we shall sodomize your sons, emblems of your feeble masculinity, or your shallow dreams and vulgar lies. We shall seduce them in our schools, in our dormitories, in our gymnasiums, in your locker room, in your sports arena, in your seminaries, in your youth groups, in your movie theaters and bathrooms, in your army bunkhouses, in your truck stops, in all male clubs, in your houses of Congress, wherever men are, with men together, your sons shall become our minions and do our biddings. They will be recast in our image. No. When you hear this, you begin to understand what could cause the far right to have these intolerant views of homosexuality, because it's agenda driven. Now, while the average homosexual may be a victim of socialization and tragic encounters, the movement is driven by the devil. Unknown to him and the majority of the public who don't see anything wrong with it. There are people who are in Europe, in America, large numbers are saying, leave them alone, because they do not see it as diabolic. They see it as simply choice. I want to read on. This is not only, I say, this is not only evil. I want you, women, you cry for freedom. You say you are no longer satisfied with men. They make you unhappy. We'll embrace them when they weep. Women, you say you wish to live with each other instead of with a man, then go after it. There is no reason why you should not. No, Candace, this is a written document. You say, how somebody can put this thing in writing? This is a written document. So when we look at this written document, when I was doing my studies, and I looked at the written document first, I arrived at this thing is agenda driven. So I begin to look at aspects of it to see how and why it is agenda driven. So that's it. I guess I hope I answered your question on
Yeah,
what.
yes, he did. And it's very interesting. I was thinking the exact same thing, that, this is something that's in writing, that I'm sure if
Yeah,
you Google it, if you look it up on
you
the
get it.
internet, you could find it,
You find it.
and it seems so interesting. You mentioned things about the sporting arenas and these sorts of things, and that is things that we are seeing, and this
You
was
got it right.
published.
You got it right. We are seeing,
Yes,
but I want to stick up in Candy, before we move on. I want to admit to those who are listening to me that I don't know so much about transgender and what is causing it, because when I was doing this study, it was not in vogue as it is now. So if at the end you have questions to me, keep them on just the homosexual, bisexual, pansexual, asexual, and these things. Transgender, give me some time to study this thing and see what it is all about. All right? Yeah.
yes, okay. And so you just mentioned that this is something that's agenda driven. So I want to know now, what or who is exactly behind this agenda then?
All right. The real issue behind this dark and clandestine agenda is the family, as ordained and established by God. The evil are after the family. Even without the Christian jargon, one can follow that within the development of Western societies, societal recognition and protection of the traditional family consists of father, mother, and children. I want you to keep in your mind also, just think for a moment before as I go on. If there were no families in the world, there were no husbands, there were no marriages, just think about what the world will be plunged into. And if you see what the world will be plunged into, then you have a good idea why the family is under attack. There are two things that came from the Garden of Eden unscathed, and that's marriage and the Sabbath. And these two things have faced the ire and the attack of the enemy in many ways. Now, Western culture was developed on these principles of morality, where motherhood out of wedlock was frowned upon for practical as well as ethical reasons. It has also held up the idea that sex is to be reserved for marriage. This is modern. This is how the whole modern society, the modern society had operated on. The pre-modern also. But we have seen a change in the postmodern family. whereby people don't trouble you. Long time when a child was born without a father, they call the child a bastard. But now it's no big thing anymore. We have reached the stage where there's a breakdown in the modern society. So to accept gay marriages or homosexual union is to destroy the very foundation of morality in which a society was built. The flirting of the idea of gay marriages and homosexual union was only made possible by the steady, hear what I'm saying. The flirting of the idea of gay marriages and homosexual unions was only made possible by the steady fall in other moral aspects in regards to sex. When in the 60s, late 60s, the hippie movement, the free sex movement, yeah, if it feels good, just do it. The free drug movement also. When sex was moved from a very private thing to, if we talking good and I could ask you for sex and most you will say no, and there's no conflict, no consequence to I asking that question. This have come into our everyday life. And because sex had become so free and so abandoned, and women change partners, and actually men too, as quickly and easily as they would like to, it have brought the whole issue of sex as a plaything. And as sex has become a plaything, the very decadence, the moral decadence that has followed have led us to the issue of LGBTQ+A, because now anybody can speak about sex. Anybody can ask for it, anybody can talk to it, because there's a breakdown in society. And I want to say to you, I keep saying to people, the LGBTQ+A is not the major attack on the family, you know. The major attack on the family is fornication, is adultery, is things that because of the easy way in which sex is given and sex is hard. The issue of marriage is no longer important in the society because I can have all the benefits without marriage. But LGBTQ is also an attack because it gives a face of marriage that God had never intended.
Yes, and we definitely, if we look around in society, we see just the, degrading morals and values. And when you mentioned, sex being a free thing, I couldn't help but remember the story you would have told maybe a couple of weeks ago about you being in the airport and the young lady coming up to you. So it's all over, and it's everywhere. So based on that, coming, specifically into homosexuality itself, I have a question about how do you become a homosexual? Is it something that you are born with, or, where does it come from?
Nice question. No, homosexuality, the homosexual lobby, the homosexual group who push this agenda, they use a lot of spurious science. And that spurious science is having devastating effect on morals and the family. The argument that homosexuals are a product of nature is flawed, and I will cover a lot of that this morning. It is a choice. Why I do not totally disregard, friends, I wanted, for those who may be wondering, well, I know since the boy was small, I studied the thing. I did not listen to what people said on the radio. I studied it. And I studied at that time when you had to get into the books to study it. You couldn't just pull it online and get all kind of skewed videos saying all kind of thing. I studied it, and I would give you some studies I have done after that. Not me, but the universities and what they have found. You see, while I do not totally disagree with the theory that some people may have a higher propensity towards the decadent homosexual behavior, but so too is the situation to drug addiction, alcoholism, and even violence. But all remain a choice, one we cannot as a people condone as an alternate lifestyle. The rational analysis of human sexuality has been mystified by the scientific deception perpetuated by Alfred Kinsey in 1948. You see how far back I'm going. Kinsey, who had been a pederast homosexual, and a pederast homosexual, a homosexual that target little boys, has until quite recently gone unchallenged by the scientific community. No one is born with different characteristics than the other or have an extra gene. We are all composed of the same amount of genetic information. Now, Kinsey was given $100,000 to do this research by forget this guy, you know, this rich guy. All right, I remember his name in a while. Kingsley used falsified information, and for decades he performed on homosexual assistants, on prison inmates, and other, including children and infants, who were sexually abused to prove that human sexuality follow a 7-point scale from heterosexual to homosexuality, with bisexuality in the middle. Kinsey concluded that bisexuality was a natural way of life. He said we can do it all the time. We can be bisexual if we choose to, because it is natural. But the society that makes us feel guilt for it. For 4 decades, Kinsey's work wormed its way into the moral fabric of Western society. It became the foundation of the conventional wisdom that homosexuality is normal. When Kinsey testified before California legislators that sodomy should be decriminalized, because 10% of all Americans are homosexual, it brought a clandestine behavior into mainstream thought and acceptance. And that's why people always talk about chromosomes, when we come to that, always say these things, because it has become acceptable that homosexuality is not natural and normal. That's acceptable by most people outside religion. They see it as, well, this happened, well, it could be. But there is nothing in the research process that shows that homosexuals are normal. Nothing that shows that.
Yeah. And that's so interesting. You know, I hear you mention things like natural and genes and chromosomes and these sorts of things. So just to be absolutely clear, are you saying that homosexuality is not genetic?
Claims by the gay rights movement that homosexuality is a genetic trait and homosexuality are born with cannot change the focus of the campaign. It is the scientific peg of this sorry crusade. The homosexual lobby argument of a homosexual gene as having been responsible for homosexual behavior and hence is a natural and not deviant has never been proven. I want to say it again. It has never been proven. You may hear it all the time and you may run with the idea, well, they are speaking science. No, they are not speaking science. Researchers from the Department of Genetics at Stanford Medical School and the Department of Clinical Neurological Sciences at the University of Western Ontario, in a study published in the Journal of Science, found that there was no evidence to support the presence of a gene or large effect influencing sexual orientation. I want to add too, the scientists question whether a gene inherited from mothers influence men's sexual orientation. While genetics determine the sex of our embryo, a boy and a girl are made through the process of socialization. I want to say that again. While genetics will determine your sexual organ, that's all it determines. It determines the genitals, a penis, or a vagina. But whether you are a girl or a boy, that's a different thing altogether. That is where you are socialized. If you were the only person, Candice, if you were the only person in the world, animals and all that, you would not have known that you are a girl. You would not have known that you are female. But you come to know that because the socialization process where they give you pink clothing when you are a baby and give you dolls and teacups and saucers and they give the guy trucks and telescope. And these are the issues that form you. And then you saw other male and you saw other female before you. These are your learning that graft you and make you see yourself as a female. If there was no female in the world, none whatsoever, only male, and you grew up among them, you would have thought that you were one of them. Yes, you would have seen differences in yourself, but you would have thought that you were just one of them. Because that's how we learn. That's how we learn. The scientific question, whether a gene inherit, I read that already. Of course, the real question is, when did it get there? Was it paternal, neonatal, during childhood, puberty? That we do not know. The fact is, scientists still can't explain what determines a person's sexual orientation. And the idea of learned behavior is still the most potent and logical argument for human behavior. What we do, we learn. If I grew up in a home that people went to church, I continue going to church. If I gone to a home where they went to the mandir or they went to the mosque, I would have been happy in the mandir or in the mosque. That's how it is. If I grew up in a house where there are two fathers, the idea of having a household with two fathers would have been what I would see as germane, as real, as something that it would have been my learned experience. And while many studies have suggested that it is biological, don't want to think that, and not choice, researchers in 1991 discovered that identical twins of gay men were much more likely to also be gay than their fraternal twins. The conflicting results in these researches have come about through the tenacity of the homosexual lobby to shape and change public opinion. In so doing, homosexuals in the science world continue to present dubious findings to promote the immoral cause that goes against nature. But the issue of choice, and I studied this, I won't say where, I studied this, and when I studied it, I spent 2 semesters with homosexuals, went to the clubs, the bathhouses, the sports, the get together. And I saw them face up, very present in front of me. I went with a guy, he was from Sri Lanka, and we went in that place. We were studying the same thing, and we went in the place as boyfriend and girl, or whatever they call it. So we were not suspected. So we didn't need a gatekeeper. So when we got there, we were able to observe everything because we were not a threat to the community. So we were able to observe the entire movement, question, talk to people, see things. So I'm saying I am bringing participant observation to you. What I'm saying is not based on any bias here, not based on Leviticus 18, not based on things that people said to me. It's things that I have seen myself.
Yeah, and for sure we could appreciate the first-hand knowledge and experience that you would have had with this. And so, coming back to the question of genetics. So if you're saying that homosexuality is not something that's genetic, it's not something that you're born with, and in reality it's a choice, then what is causing so many people to make that choice then?
That's a difficult question. That's a question that comes up anytime you try to talk about this thing. That's what you say there will come up. You see, homosexuality was classified as mental illness until 1973. The American Psychiatric Association removed homosexuality as a mental illness following the lesbian and gay activism and advocacy effort within the American Psychiatric Association. What had happened, they were having a convention. And I had this doctor who came to show scientifically that this gating have no science to it, but it is more socialization, and it is more, what you call them, people protest and things like that. It is more of that ilk than it was of science. And what happened? The gay activists stormed the American Psychiatric Association convention, destroying displays and throwing down tables. And what happened? Strong people in the society begin to speak out against the American Psychiatric Association about discrimination. And what happened? In 1973, the American Psychiatric Association asked all members at a convention to vote on whether they believe homosexuality to be mental disorder. What happened? 5,854 psychiatrists voted to remove homosexuality as a mental issue, and 3,810 to retain it. It was not science that says that they are normal. It was activism. That's the word I was looking for. It was activism that caused it. Homosexual activist and researcher, Dr. Dean Hammer of the National Cancer Institute in America, published a study in Science that picked up from Kinsey by suggesting a link between genes and homosexuality. The modern homosexual activists and proselytes have used Hamer's research to promote their campaign for same-sex marriage and hate crime legislation. That is what governments are looking at today when they proclaim that this is not so.
Yeah. And you spoke earlier about, this is not your opinion. You did research on this. So I want to know, why did you decide to research this? And in your research, did you find anything that poses any kind of threat from this? Is it just that, they could choose what they want, we could choose what we want, and we live peacefully? Is there any danger really in this agenda that they have?
All right. Good question. The first thing I saw at the university, this is what I do my master's, I saw two men lying down on the grass, facing each other, and picking at each other's face and play. So immediately it dawned, it dawned on me, what is this? What is this? And I went to that time we were choosing subject for our research. And I asked him if I could study homosexuality. He said, yes, you have to go do it. If you do it as a participant observer, you will get more information. And then the next day he said to me, no, I give you some bad advice. You need to carry somebody with you. You need to pretend that you are. And that's why I cannot tell you university and date, because I did not get the permission to observe these people. And people could sue you for things like that. But one-on-one, if you talk to me, I can tell you university time and place and whatever. And that's how I started studying it. Now, the real danger for the theories of Hammer and Kingsley claim that all types of genital activities, regardless of sex or age of the partner, and including violent and perverted action, was normal, forms the basis for the new pseudoscience of sexology and sex education. And these courses have been taught in school. I remember a few years ago, people trying to put pressure on the Patrick Manning government to let them teach sexual education in school. Thank God that the Lord saved us from that, because this is the principle. And there are some fellas here in UWI right here, mostly some girls, not so much the fellas, who really want to push this sexual education things in school. Because the foundation for their texts and what they are teaching comes from Dr. Dean Hamer and Alfred Kinsey. So they have this sort of Hamer's defense of the indefensible will not go away, but will constantly present as light from the dark minds of those who are consumed with diabolic lust. The 1993 study, being larger than Hamer's, including more pairs of homosexual siblings than Hamer's study, had the power to had the power to replicate Hamer's result. It didn't happen. It did not happen. But it is a danger because as the place become more and more liberal, and as the liberal bring all the decadence to the fore, what is going to happen? Homosexual will be going to be more and more accepted. And as they become more and more accepted, you got to look out for your children. Well, my children big, but you, Candice, will have to look out for your children. Because as it get more into the mind of the people, and people begin to accept it as normal, it will reverberate around the world.
Yeah, and I know that, this was something that you researched a lot about, and I hear you mentioning persons like Hammer and Kinsley. But I want to know, is there any other studies that you may have come across, any other research besides these that could support what it is you're saying here this morning?
Well, yes. There's the Bailey-Perrard twin study. That I know somebody out there must be saying that he only talking Perrard and Perrard and Bailey have done. Well, let me tell you what they find. They found that they took 56 identical twins. 52% were both gay as against 22 fraternal twins. The numbers alone say a lot. So out of these 56 identical twins, if one turned out to be gay, there was a 52% chance of the other one being gay. So wow, Bailey and Perrard say, that's it. They are born like that. Even though it is only half, but it is a huge percentage. So you give them that cry. But then you ask yourself, their conclusion is this can mean that they had to be something in the genes that factored into these siblings being gay, since identical twins share the same genotype. Now, that may sound plausible if you are not a sociologist. That may sound plausible if you are not considering these social factors, for it can also mean, mind you, that both twins were subject to the same kind of rule. They were in the same environment. It is possible that they were socialized the same way. And once that happens, once you and I are socialized the same way, the chance of us growing up alike is very good. Very, very good. There are a lot of things that you have that your siblings will have also, And that comes from both of you, all of you being socialized in the same environment. There are certain things that my sisters, I have 6 sisters and 2 brothers. There are certain things about me that is with them because we have been socialized in the same pot. And because we have been socialized in the same environment, the chances of us being the same and doing the same thing is high. They are rude people. Somebody see a whole family and not one of them talking to people. They're passing each other straight. You think it's a rude gene they have? No. It's a socialization process that caused them to behave that way. You sometimes see a whole family, they have 3 girls in the family, and all of them is what we call loose. You think it's a loose gene they have? No. Being socialized in the same environment, they tend to do the same things. You find people voices, a man talking just as his father, or a girl talking just as her mother, or he's walking just as his father. All that is part of the socialization. He are not talk genes.
Yeah, and what you're saying is making so much sense. But and I hear what you're saying, especially coming out of the twin study. It's not just, the genetic side of it, but you live in the same neighborhood, in the same household, the same parents and these sorts of things. But is there any chance then that it could just be genetics and it's not socialization?
I said it again, but I say it again. If you alone were in this world and never saw another girl, would you have known that you were a girl? The answer is no. In the article, Homosexuality, Born or Bred, Doug Barnett, who was a practicing heterosexual, vaguely attracted to men, I want you to hear this, had no idea about his sexuality until his twin brother came up to him and revealed that Reve was gay. It wasn't until Barnett then realized that if my identical brother is gay, maybe the same thing that interests him would work for me too. He then tried sex with other men to find out he enjoyed it more than having sex with women. I repeat, more, he enjoyed it more. Can't it be possible that had Barnett never found out that his identical brother with the same DNA did not tell him of his sexual preference, Barnett would have continued living a heterosexual life, having sex with women and enjoying it? It's only after he was told about his brother's sexuality, he decided to try it, and he turned out afterwards to be a homosexual. No, no. Let's try and take a call. I don't know. I don't know. I know there's some meat of the thing. This will be a two-part story, not next week. Next week I want to do something else, but the following week, the 27th, 29th, we'll come back to a second part because I recognize there are things that you will not hear. Alex, you there?
Yes, Pastor, and we can take some calls.
Yeah, Alex, I got something for you. I got something for you. Got it? Alex.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. I left something for you. Did you get it?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Only a couple of days ago. It was Friday, I believe. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
Appreciate it. So phone lines are open. You can call in and chat with Pastor Browne. We have about 6 minutes to go. So, Pastor, you may continue.
Okay. Yes. Well, I say, no, we got to ask ourselves, why only 52%? This is true as far as the environmental factors are concerned. Maybe people become gay because they grew up thinking about the males in their lives that give them a good time. They don't have any females that have given them happiness, and therefore they just don't end up liking female. But these theories are very unreliable. What we do know is that the environment usually impacts behavior. Go ahead, Candice. I figured it wrong. Whatever question you have.
Yeah. And so you mentioned, we spoke about Barnett, trying out that homosexual relationship. But could it be possible that those genes were in him at that point in time? And when he had a conversation with his brother, maybe he was made aware of that.
Good question. Good question again. We can also ask very important question to ourselves. Why is that even in societies where homosexuality is forbidden or strictly frowned upon, people still openly announce their homosexuality? You can say, well, that had to be a real thing because I'm in Iraq and all them places like that. People still say that. The article, Everything You Need to Know About Being Gay in Muslim Countries by Browne attempts to validate the theory of genetics being the dominant factor in determining homosexuality. He tried to answer what you just asked there. Mr. Whitaker discussed the fact that throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, men...
sorry, we have a call coming in here.
Sure.
Hello, good morning. Okay, we had a call coming in there. You may continue.
Okay. Those people, they were persecuted, and still, those people, families, religion, and culture completely went against their ideology. So in these times of extreme cruelty and hate towards homosexuality, if they still openly express their sexual identity and stand up for who they are, it is probably true that he's saying that they are born that way. That's why they are continuing that. But it can also be true. As I said, the sociologists will always see it a bit differently. It can also be true that no environmental factors influence their sexual identity, and their sexuality is the way in which it have genetics. That's what he's saying. But I'm saying the theory is weak because there are many things in the society that the society frown upon that people still do. The society frowned upon murder and theft and lying and banditry and loose living, but people still do it. There's something in man that I did not want to go to, and that's the issue of sin. that the issue of the propensity of man to do what is wrong, that desire that thrills him into doing what is wrong. And if the social factors impact upon us, we do the same thing. I grew up in a home where my daddy wasn't working, but he wasn't stealing. And my mother would go into San Fernando and scrub people floors and things like that. She wasn't stealing. She wasn't prostituting. So I grew up in a home knowing that these things should not be done. And regardless of how you suffer, still be honest. So that is part of my socialization. If my daddy was a bandit and he come home with the root and thing, what do you think was going to happen? What do you think was going to happen? Not I would have be a bandit. You had 3 boys, 6 girls, prostitutes and bandits. If that was happening in the home. So people make choices because of sin also. I didn't want to go there, but that's where I am.
Yeah, and
let's do one more question because
yes, yeah, this is the last one, and I know you said you didn't want to speak too much about religion, but seeing as we already here, just to wrap it up, seeing that God would have created everything, the planets and plants and us as human beings, could it be possible that he himself created another sexuality?
God made you this way. To have the Pope is to have told a gay man by Jason Horowitz state that direct quotation of the Pope to a gay man, you have to be happy with who you are. God made you this way and loves you this way. And the Pope loves you this way, Horowitz said. This is coming from the Pope himself, he said. So for those who claim homosexual goes against religion and try to use religion to cover a blanket, as a cover blanket to support the hatred against gay people, might have to come with better reason because the Pope said the man was born so. Well, we had to pick up this because what I want to say to Horowitz, that the Pope is not the voice of God. Never been and never will be. And because of that, what the Pope say is his opinion of that. But God would have nothing to support that. God created man in his what? In his what, Candice? You are a preacher. God created man in his what?
In his image and
In
likeness.
his own image and likeness. So to tell me that God created man as homosexual and things like that, I'm saying no. And if the Pope could say that how many times he wants, it is not true. It is not true. And we who are called as Christians, we are not called to condemn homosexuals. We're not called to be intolerant towards them, to cast them aside. God has set us among them that we can bring healing to them as the love of God will permit. Until next week, we will come again next week. I am dealing with merriment and merry time. But first, gather your questions, Candice. The first Sunday, or the last Sunday of the year, I will come back and finish this whole thing. Because there may be somebody out there have their own view. So we will finish at it. But I hope I said enough for you to understand the agenda. Okay?
Yes, you
Thank you very
definitely
much,
did. Looking forward to next
Pastor.
time.
Okay.
Do have yourself a wonderful day.
You too,
and
Ellen.
thank you
You
for
too. Be blessed.
having the program every morning, every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. Victorious Lifestyle to you and your guest speakers. Have yourselves a wonderful day. It's Talk City coming up next. We have Health Talk with Dr. Myers.
Bringing you the sounds of the season. Talk City.
This one too. I just want to take us out of what is there. Okay, Candice. I went to chat, but I couldn't get myself off Facebook. So we'll chat in the week.
Okay, no